on the last episode of Behind the Badge.
So that first initial blow to my forearm broke my arm in 4 different places, completely shattered my ulna bone. And then obviously because of the cut, extensive muscle, tendon, and nerve damage. I believe the second strike was to my hand, which flayed my hand open at some point in time. I think that's what cut my finger off. I got hit in the face as well, completely split my lip open. I have a fake tooth that completely shattered. I had to have bone grafting done. The gunshot to my left knee, and I got stabbed in, but somehow, I don't know, I got stabbed in my right knee. Okay, there's not a whole lot I do remember, but I remember when she walked into it was like the ER prep room, the ER room. They were cleaning out my arm, and I had my arm up like this. There's actually a picture of my arm, and it's up like this, and just everything completely flayed open. That's what she walked into. But she's far tougher than I, because she looked on her face, like I could see her eyes. I could see it in her eyes, and she put her hand over her mouth, and then dropped it and walked right over to me and just straight face. She's like, "How you doing, babe?" And she's a tough woman, and I couldn't have recovered without her.
Canine unit on the Aqua Cassidy. 9655 OD on.
So, recovery, you say recovery. Obviously, there's a physical aspect to recovery, and there's a mental aspect to recovery. And obviously, you're back at work.
Yeah.
Were there times where you were going through your recovery thinking maybe you wouldn't be back at work, or wondering what the future held? Like, walk us through both the physical recovery and obviously the mental and emotional recovery that you had to endure.
Yeah. Initially, there was never a doubt in my mind I was returning to work. A lot of that tribute to being young, and I was like, there's no way. Granted, I was young in my career too. It was like I went through everything to get here. I didn't want to lose that. So everything was just focused on my physical recovery, because I had so much injuries. I was in a full arm cast for 4.5 months, which is the most uncomfortable to be like this and not being able to move that. And then, so, healing through, once my knee was all the physical therapy I had to do to finally get, thankfully there wasn't a ton of damage, like major damage, like that they had to do. They didn't have to do any surgeries for my knee. So
That's lucky.
yeah, I don't, it's just, yes. So once my knees were kind of healed, I was able to really get back in and start doing my physical recovery. And all I could do was go to the gym and do squats. So that's just what I did. I went to the gym constantly and just
Squats.
cast and did squats, and that was all, until I was able to get my cast. Because my bone it wasn't healing. There was just some it wasn't, the malunion wasn't happening. So it just took a really long time, and obviously the amount of damage that occurred for everything to kind of heal. Thankfully, because they at first thought they were going to have to put what's called a wound vac on me, which is kind of like they leave the wound open and they put this device on that kind of like lets it start healing from the inside out. And once they got in there, because there was more damage, it was more extensive than they thought, and so, but they were able to not have to do that, thankfully, and was stitched everything up, and so then it was just months of recovery, of constant doctor's appointments and dealing with all that. So mental stuff, I never dealt with, never thought like I'm fine. And it wasn't really until I finally kind of started, okay, I'm going to get back to work now. And so I finally got signed off to, I think going back and forth between light duty and having to be off work and everything, it was about a year, if I remember right, before I got fully signed off by the doctors to come back to work. And so.
And in that moment, you thought, I'm ready. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I've been working for.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hard things with coming recovery too, because you don't know how you're going to respond until you try it, and you don't know. Okay, am I going to be okay going back out there? Am I not going to be okay? Like physically, I think I'm all right. Mentally, am I going to be all right? I don't know.
Were you worried about it?
I
I mean, was that something that you were like thinking about?
Not like consistently, because up until that point, I had some definite signs of I don't want to call it PTSD, but PTSD, trauma injury, right? And up until that, going back to work, it was more so just like excited to go back to work. I want to recover and go back. I mean, it was such a push. I mean, even to get out of the hospital. So when I was in the hospital for 3 days, and part of it to get out was, okay, I had to do some PT, which included walking down the hallway, and I had to have a bowel movement. There were 2 criteria.
Yes.
I'm like, cool, let's do it. So I got up and craned myself down in extreme pain down the hallway, came back and lied to him that I went to the bathroom, and I was like, get me out of here. I don't know why. I just wanted to be out of the hospital. Looking back, it was a terrible decision. I should have stayed in the hospital a lot longer because I got home and had some issues, and I did not feel good, and it should have stayed under the care of a doctor for longer, but I'm stubborn.
Imagine that, a stubborn chippy.
Right. And I think that also then came back to okay, I'm going back to work.
Yeah.
This is it. I'm coming back. The first day that I ended up being in commercial. I was working at an inside commercial spot. Part of that, you have to do inspections to keep up your level 1 certificate. The first day I worked by myself, I was doing an inspection on a car, or not on a car, on a truck, a big rig. Finish up the inspection, and the guy's sitting up in his rig. I'm doing my paperwork to give him, and he goes to get out, and he opens up his door, and he says something to me, and I didn't hear what he said. And I was like, what was that? He's like, oh, I got something for you. And as he's stepping down, his right arm's behind his back, and I immediately just go into hypervigilant mode and start backing up. Like, what? You got to be kidding me. This was my thought of,
Right.
It's happening again. This is the first day I'm back to work, and this is happening again right now. And he steps down, and then his arm comes out, and I can see he's got nothing in his hand. Great. And so he walks over to what's called the dunnage area in the back of the truck, and he reaches over and he grabs a ball peen hammer and picks it up. And I'm like, what in the world? And I grab it from him and I pull it away. Like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I was going to give it to you because I saw you with the tires, because we check tires. He's like, saw you hitting the tires. I was going to give this to you. And I just like froze. I was like, this guy has no idea. He's just looking at me of like, what is wrong with this guy? He has no idea. Obviously, he's trying to be nice.
Yeah,
and
he's triggering you.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what is going on? What am I doing? Why am I out here?
You had that thought. I mean, that's what you're thinking at this point.
I went and I didn't tell any. I actually haven't told a whole lot of people that story.
All 17 people watching are now going to know.
And I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know what to do. Because
Right.
you get that we're supposed to be okay. It's kind of like the mental side of the stigma of things is that like we're supposed to be the tough guys and we're supposed to be okay after everything. So I'm just gonna suck it up and not say
Guys
anything.
is gender neutral.
And
Guys is gender neutral.
I think we are worse at it. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna push that away and go on, which is a terrible way to deal with things. So ended up doing commercial for a little bit longer, and
Didn't say anything. So you didn't say
I
anything.
never said anything.
Just buried it inside.
And just went back out and tried to push through it. And then it kind of started to build again. I was like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. And so when I got the opportunity to move into a different role and went in and started doing backgrounds and then doing ISU. So I was able to kind of at a perfect time kind of transition out of it. So I'm like, okay, just a different area. Let's try doing something different. And again, putting things aside, you're not healing anything. If you have a broken arm and you just keep, oh, it's fine, I don't need to put a cast on, or I don't need to deal with anything, it's not going to heal. it's the same thing with mental trauma. If you don't heal and you just keep pushing stuff down and you're pushing it away, and that compounds on top of each other over and over. And I did it for years, which is ultimately, I think, why I was starting to go through having a lot more pain. I started getting older. My body was hurting more. And I think a lot of that too is not dealing with the mental trauma of my body just having that
holding that stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I finally one day just kind of broke, and it's like I can't continue to do this anymore. I don't know what the future looks. I have a long career. I don't know. I can't go back out and work the road. Like there's no way I can go make stops again on people. And aside from working commercial, I didn't go out and do anything else. I didn't go out and take a beat and do that again. I didn't think that there was just truly any way that it would be possible for me to overcome that mental thing. Because I'm constantly was battling, okay, my body hurts and the mental side. It wasn't one or the other. They were like constantly reminding me of one, as if one was the constant reminder of the other, basically.
So your incident was in December of 2018. When did you go back to work in commercial?
This is into 2014.
I'm sorry, 2014.
Yeah. So into 2014, I went back to doing light duty 2 months later.
So December of 2014, the incident happens. 2 months later, you're working light duty in the Humboldt office?
No, at Division.
They
let me
Northern
come down
Division
in
in
Northern
Reading.
Division to do light duty status. I was still in my cast. I was on crutches. Came back to work way too early.
Just because you felt like you had to, like something to prove, or
yes, I think there was a lot going on. I think both like something to prove to myself that like I'm not going to quit. I'm going to come back. I also kind of felt like I was given an opportunity, because it's like, okay, I'm given this opportunity to be at Division that could possibly lead to a future job. I don't want to lose that.
right? You've been trying to work your way back home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was now looking back on it,
Silly.
because it's like I needed to take time to be at home, heal, to let my body not be on crutches and be uncomfortable every day. So that part of it was go back to being stubborn. But
So what was it that made, you said that you got to a point where you just kind of broke. How long after the incident was that?
8 years.
8 years. So back to full duty almost right away, and working commercial, working background investigations, working criminal investigations. What caused it, do you think?
Not dealing with it. I think the it compounding on top of each other, to just one day I just couldn't handle it anymore and didn't think I can go on. Actually, when I went into the doctor, and it was because I was having a lot of shoulder pain and just issues that I wanted to go get taken care of. I went, and he started talking to me, and he's like, "How you doing mentally?" I'm like, "I'm all right." He's like, "No, really, how you doing?" Okay. Started talking to him. He's like, "I'm pulling you off work." I'm like, "What? I don't want to not work." And so it just kind of became a snowball from there, so to speak, that, having to go through stuff before it was not like, okay, well, I'm going to retire. It was like, I went back and forth of going off work and coming back and doing light duty and going back and forth. And it was ultimately, had doctors that are like, yeah, you can't go back out there and continue to put yourself to continue that stress, because I was very hypervigilant, having panic attacks all the time. Not all the time, but the hypervigilance, I think, for me was the biggest thing.
I think just like the amount of stress that puts on your body. You don't realize it when you're living that way, but I think, right, you're always on.
Yeah.
Always stressed.
Always on, and just never dealing with it.
Yeah.
Never addressing the issue that was at hand on that.
Did you, during the 8 years, I think you said it was, did you go and were you talking to people? Were you utilizing, EAP or any sort of, but maybe just not investing in that in a way that you should have been? Or what do you think was missing?
Yeah, well, I did. So that's kind of also the interesting thing. I ended up going to, they have a retreat called the West Coast Post Trauma Retreat that I attended. And I've done EMDR treatment. I did EMDR, and that was huge. It helped me so much. A lot of that, though, was more in my civilian life. All my extreme hypervigilance. I did not like going out at nighttime. My incident occurred at night. I became like, I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't go anywhere at night, just because I couldn't turn that part of it off. And through EMDR, it completely changed that, of all my fear with that. So it was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I can attack this and get back to, I never went back to try and address anything further though when it came to work. Like everything was just the thought of like, okay, touch a hot stove, you're never going to do that again. And my brain was telling me, why would you go do that? Why you don't need to go back out there and do that? And even though I was working in, an investigative role, I wasn't out working patrol, but I knew that wasn't going to last forever. I was eventually going to have to go out and patrol, and I could not imagine actually doing it. My brain is just, there's no way you can actually go out and do this again and put yourself through this again.
Yeah.
So ultimately, this led to you medically retiring.
Correct.
And leaving the department.
Yeah.
What made that decision?
I think the doctors were part of it that made that. I think just finally allowing that process to occur. I fought it before. After I got hurt, they actually tried to retire me. I was back working, and the doctors were like, no, you can't do it. I had to fight it then, and go through depositions and prove to the doctors that I was okay and start doing the job again. So I'd already gone through that fight of getting medically retired, but saying, hey, no, this isn't going to happen. Like, I can do this. So I think when I finally came around to it again, faced it again, it was like, okay, I'm going to be honest with doctors. I'm going to be truthful with psychologists of what's really going on, and
Open to help.
yeah. And at that point, it was kind of like, hey, whatever comes, it may. That's what it will be. Which then ultimately ended up to the medical retirement.
And when did you medically retire?
In July of 2022.
So 7.5, almost 8 years after the incident, medically retired, left the department. And what did you do after you left the department?
For the first almost year, nothing. I kind of went into I wouldn't say a low point, but I kind of got lost. You leave something that you worked so hard to do, to achieve, something that all of us, when we came on at some point, had our reason why we chose law enforcement, why we got into doing the job. We have a purpose, whether people, they get years on and they admit it or not, like you have a purpose. And when you don't have that purpose anymore, you kind of lose yourself a little bit. And I didn't know what to do. Like, before this, I worked in construction, and now I'm a cop. And so what am I going to do? Well, I have no idea what, but also at the same time, it was like, okay, cool. I can be retired and I can play golf. I can screw around, but I didn't do any of that. I just kind of became like stagnant and trying to find work and trying to figure out what to do. And I just could never figure it out.
Were you actively trying to get mental health help? I mean, in that at that point, were you like, okay, or no, like the job is over. I don't necessarily need to address that as much anymore because I'm not going to have to work patrol. I'm not going to.
No, no, I didn't do anything. I just kind of existed, honestly. And then it was kind of like, okay, I need to figure out something to do. Got back into kind of doing construction and doing stuff, doing kind of like handyman stuff and keeping myself busy. And I was busy. And then realizing through that, it's like, my body hurts more now doing this than when I was on patrol. Like this is like doing construction stuff. This isn't sustainable. But I truly tried to find other avenues to try and figure out, okay, what am I going to do? I applied for, I think I probably like over 25 different places, and never got any interviews to do anything. All the stuff that, any like investigative stuff or online companies, like you name it, I tried to figure out what that was. It's just like, okay, what am I going to do now? At this time, I was 38 years old, I think. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to reinvent myself, a 38-year-old, and figure out what does life look like now? Where is my purpose at? I didn't want to do something that was just like, okay, yeah, I can go do this. And I like, because leaving this and you have that purpose and you have that drive and that sense of fulfillment, I just didn't have that anymore.
Did you miss it?
No, and then yes. So I didn't at first. I felt like a huge weight was
Relief.
lifted away from me. That I was like, okay, I don't have to do this anymore. Then as time went by, I was doing a job downtown and the downtown Reading area, and the local PD was chasing somebody around. So I walked outside and I literally just watched them. They were going back and forth. And it was the first time I stood there. It's like, I miss that. I miss the job. I miss, not that is all the job is just chasing bad guys. But it was like the first time that I consciously remember, like, oh, I actually miss that. Like I wonder if I could do that again. But I didn't think that it would even be possible, honestly, to attempt to come back.
Well, I don't want to spoil the ending, but it looks like you came back. So how did you make your way back to the department after having gone through all this and then medically retiring?
So about a year and a half into being retired, it kind of found me at a good. I had wondered, okay, what does it look like to come back? But I thought, there's no way. I have to get cleared by so many different doctors to try and get this, and I don't even know where to start with that. Make a long story short, ended up getting a letter in the mail that kind of started the process. I was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. Started having doctor's appointments, of course. Talked to my wife about it. It was like, hey, like, kind of thinking. I remember when we were sitting there, I was like, hey, babe, I think I want to try and go back. And she just looked at me like, are you serious? Like, there's no way. And I was like, no. And so we just talked about it more and like, okay, well, let's, as long as she had always been for me, either retiring or working, it's like, as long as you feel good and you feel that you're able to do the job, she's like, I support you, which is obviously huge to be able to have that support from somebody. Because, if they're sitting over there, like, I don't ever want you to go back, and you kind of feel like you're making that decision on your own to just like, well, I'm doing this then.
Yeah.
So it just kind of became that process, and I still honestly didn't know. I was like, I have no idea if I'm going to be able to get cleared to get back. So started that, and it was probably, I think 4 or 5 months-ish later, got finally cleared by the doctors. And it was almost 2 years to the day that I retired that I came back to work and began my stint at the Reading area.
And you went right back to patrol.
Yeah, after I did my retraining. And so I think that being able to leave the department and have that break finally was able to close that chapter for me, and then kind of slowly rebuild I was and how I felt and thought about the job. Because like I said before, there was no way that I would have. There was no way I'm going to do that job. I'll do whatever I can do other things. Promotion was never even a thought in my mind because it's just I don't think I could mentally handle the thought of studying and then potential of moving and dealing with any of that when I hadn't dealt with the root of what was going on. So I think being able to leave, had I gone and maybe had some more help, and while I was still with the department, I don't know. It's kind of one of those 6 half a dozen another. Like I
You just don't know.
might
Yeah.
have no idea if that would have helped me to be able to stay, or if leaving is what I needed for me to be able to finally just go, okay, that's it. I truly never thought I'd do the job again. I gotta move on, and I think me being able to be like, okay, I'm done with that, and then to have to start that rebuild and be okay, because I knew, okay, once this started, I'm going back. It's not like I'm going back to an inside job. I'm going back. I'm working the road, and by then coming back, I'd been retired for 2 years. I hadn't worked and taken a beat since I got hurt. And before, beside from other odds and end things, I didn't work the road necessarily for quite some time. So there was a whole learning curve of coming back of not only trying to figure out how to do this job again, and then
Probably technology, the cars.
absolutely everything.
Everything changed.
Everything's different, and then that mental hurdle of like, okay, this is I'm going back, and this is what you're going to do. So you have to be okay with that. And it definitely was not easy at first. The first day that I worked, thankfully, one of my old partners that I worked auto theft with was back and working the road. So I got to partner with him and work with him, riding with him for a couple of weeks. And the first day went to a crash, overturned car. And I felt like I was a new boot again. I didn't know what to do. I look at my buddy. I'm like, hey, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, hey,
What's
I got
step one? Step one on the checklist, right?
Exactly. And it's funny then though because everyone kept saying like, hey, it'll come back, because I had a couple
It's like
buddies
riding a
that,
bike.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I say. Like when they come back from it, it's like it's riding a bike. I'm like, yeah, but this bike has different wheels on it, and it's confusing. So it definitely took a little bit of time to get used to that again and get back to it. But obviously, I was successful at doing it. So yeah, no, it was good to be able to. I think proved myself too, coming back that part of me can be overcome. That part of that mental trauma that I went through can be done with. Not to say that I won't ever have stuff that flares up or however it looks, because I don't truly think that anyone can ever fully get over something, because there's still always reminders every stop you make. You're definitely I'm more aware of. I felt before I was definitely pretty aware of stuff going on, but it completely changed the way I patrolled.
I think it's a good example. There's, a lot of times, like you were talking about before, people are afraid to ask for help, or they don't want to admit that they're struggling. And sometimes I think it's because there is a perception that you can't have both, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You if you are struggling from trauma, or you are, have been through trauma, you're classified as having, maybe PTSD, or you're even afraid to say that, because that is, can be synonymous with not being able to do this job. Yep. Or, and so I just think your story is a good example of, you both can exist.
Yeah.
You can have been through trauma and still be capable, in certain circumstances, of doing this job. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, I do think, like you said, it makes you more vigilant, more aware of what can happen, the importance of being prepared.
Yeah.
So it's a good message.
It is a very like kind of a black and white thing that people are afraid to whether you've gone through a crazy critical incident or stuff compounds on each other, and if you don't deal with that trauma, it will get worse and will get worse, and it manifests in different ways. Everyone handles their trauma differently.
Yeah, that's another good thing to realize is that, you know, this very well for somebody else, you know, they wouldn't have been able to come back, and people deal with things differently, and I think sometimes, you know, we get stuck in that, you know, well, I saw so-and-so and they came right back to work. So if I don't come right back to work, somehow, you know, people are going to perceive me differently, weaker. Or
that was very big. I did not want to be perceived as the weak person.
Right.
Even though if I was on the outside of this and I saw somebody else that went through what I went through, I'd be like, dude, there's no one, like, you're fine. Like, there's no way that someone would think, but when you're the one that's in it, you can feel that you're the only one that's experiencing it, and you don't know how to reach out for that help. Yeah,
there's almost like this paranoia, I think, right? That people are, I don't know, whispering or assuming or, you know, making speculations. So
you bring up an excellent point where if it was happening to somebody else, of one of your peers, one of your people you work with, your partners, you would have had a different perception of that. As you went through the whole, from the time of the incident to the time you came back, how was the support from your coworkers, from the department, from your family?
I'd say it was almost like, I think part of it coming back to work, was why I came back so early was because so when I started doing my light duty, was because of a sergeant that was in there that I knew. He was actually the guy I went my very first ride along on with. And he was the one that was like, hey, come back to work. You know, it'll be good for you to get back in, and which I don't disagree. But I think just that start of having that support, of having those people that truly actually cared about my well-being and just making sure that I'm taken care of. And then having, obviously we have a huge department, you know, the support from everyone, of getting support from people that I didn't even know. And a lot of that was within my command. I had good leaders that like, hey, whatever you need, we'll help you out. We'll take care of you. And we're just there for me throughout the process.
If you could give one piece of advice to a commander, a sergeant, a coworker, to support somebody that goes through something of this nature, a critical incident, what would be your advice to them to support their peer?
I think I'd go back to what I was just saying, like, no two people are going to handle that trauma the same. You don't know. And a lot of what someone goes through, they feel like they're the only one that has experienced that. So I think just making sure that they address, and let them know, like, hey, we will do what we can within our abilities. Obviously, there's some point in time, there's only so much you're able to do as a commander or as somebody that's leading the office, to help guide that person, to help get them what they need to be successful in returning back to work, right? Because that's the ultimate goal is to heal, whether it's from a physical or mental trauma. And then I think second step is returning back to work if that is the path that they want to go down. Because I don't think everyone is going to have that desire necessarily, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because like I said, I think the most important thing is that somebody can heal from their injury that they're going through.
And we deal with trauma all the time in our job, whether it's an incident that happens to us, whether it's an incident that happens as a reaction to actions we've taken, or whether it's just an incident that we've responded to, and everybody handles it differently. What message would you share with an officer who is struggling after having gone through a critical incident, especially if they're with that, my armor's up and I'm stronger than this and I'm going to get back? What message do you have for anybody on the department who might be listening, who may be struggling with dealing with one of their own critical incidents?
That they're not alone in it. I think I kind of said that a minute ago, but when you're in those things, or if you're in that mental struggle, you kind of feel like you're the only one that's there. Through my recovery, talking with other officers that had gone through what I went through, but been through critical incidences, was a big healing part for me, to be able to talk with somebody that I knew understood what I went through, because they also went through something similar. So knowing that you're not alone in it, and then not being afraid to get help, not having that stigma, forget about the stigma, it's your health and well-being is far more important. And that no one's looking at you that way too. I think that we all feel that, like you were just talking about, like you can feel like someone's going to judge you a certain way. And I think I dealt with that for a while too. And I finally got to the point where it's like, I don't care anymore. I don't care what people think, because this is me going through it. I need to heal, and I need for myself so I can live my life and not have that weight on me anymore. So just knowing that there is help out there, that there's lots of things that they can call me, send me an email if they're on the department. I'll talk to you all night long. I don't care. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that you're not in this alone.
At what point did you find out what had happened to your attacker?
On scene. Yeah, it was on scene that I was advised that he had deceased there.
And did you have any trauma related to that?
Not that I thought I did. And when going to the West Coast post-trauma retreat, I thought, okay, well, it was either going to happen to me. If I didn't do anything, like, I was going to die. So I was fine with it. But it wasn't until in therapy. So part of West Coast post-trauma retreat is that you go through a lot of intensive therapy. And I was very reluctant to actually go to this. I didn't want to go because I thought that I was fine, like, you're okay. And it was the greatest thing that I ever did, was going to that. And one of the therapists actually addressed that with me. I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. They're like, well, no. The fact that you had to take a life, even though it was justifiable, basically, like, you need to deal with that. And so I more so wrapped that into my EMDR therapy, and dealt with that through EMDR, because it wasn't anything that was on the forefront of my mind necessarily, but it was very deep inside that you had to. No one wants to do that. There's not a person that wants to have to, but like I said, it was in defense of my life. So it was my having to just go through that and address that part of the trauma, had I not gone to the retreat, I don't know if I would have ended up that, and that would have been another thing that just compounded over the years.
Well, and I think it's an incredible testament to you and your strength, in that you have made a training video for the department based on your incident and your experience. The fact that you're willing to come onto this platform and talk about what you went through and your experience. Is it hard to do this, or do you find it to be therapeutic to talk about it? I mean, you've been asked many times to relive a horribly terrible experience. Like, how does this affect you?
At first, Yeah, kind of, but also at the same time, it was therapeutic. When I first started telling my story, I had actually gone and done some cadet enrichment. I went and talked to the cadets. They're actually the only ones that I've, aside from doing videos and talking to like friends or psychologists, are the only ones that I've ever told my story to. So in like a public setting, was them, and that became pretty therapeutic for me. But there definitely are times that I've retelling it has brought on a lot of emotion, but it gets easier as time goes on. But yeah, no, it has been very, very therapeutic, and I'm grateful to be able to share my experience and share what I went through, in the hopes that could potentially help somebody else. Actually, after my training video was released to our department, I had a guy reach out to me. I've known him for a long time. It's like, hey, I just want to let you know, when you came and talked to my academy class, and I just want to let you know that I fully believe, because of what you came and stuff you talked about at our training, it has saved my life on numerous occasions of the stuff I have found on people and found within vehicles. And when he sent me that text after that video came out, and I just like in tears. I mean, partly that video, when the first time I watched myself watch that video, I was on patrol, sitting there on swing shift. It was pouring down rain, and I watched it and bawled the entire time I was watching it, because
the video crew is really good around here.
Yeah.
It definitely brought a lot of emotion just watching that, and also it was kind of like an not ominous, but like the setting of it was, because I was back at work in a patrol car watching this at the time, and it was raining down, so it was very reminiscent of the time of year that it was. It was just, I mean, that was obviously just a lot more to why that was such an emotional thing for me, but
it was such a good video, and I'm hopeful that this podcast is the same. And I have no doubt that talking to the cadets, I mean, if that would have, I don't think we had anything like that, when I went through, but the video itself, like I said, I watched it again last night, and it is just, there's so much value in what you're doing. So, I thank you from my perspective, and I know that everybody else probably feels the same way. It's not easy to do. I think we all recognize that, but there's so much more value in somebody, like a real person, wearing the same uniform that you wear, talking about, the being prepared, training, the importance, and then, seeing the outcome and the reality of what can happen on this job. I think it just, it prepares you so much more and emphasizes the importance of everything that we do. And so I commend you. I know it can't be easy, but it's amazing.
It makes it to where it's not a what if, it's when.
Yes.
And that's I think a lot of things that people forget when you start getting complacent in the job and not taking training seriously and not taking range seriously, just kind of going through the motions because this is how you've always done it. You have to remember, it's not what if, it's when.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Yes. Well, we always end with a rapid fire.
We do.
And
fan favorite.
Yeah, a fan favorite. Yes. So yours is going to be a little more applicable to your situation, but we are going to put you through rapid fire.
Yes. Okay. So, what is one habit that you have that helped you with your incident, your recovery, that you still have today?
Say, making sure I prioritize my health and fitness. I was fairly active before, but after going through what I went through, really made me more conscious on the importance of staying fit. And it's just one thing I've carried throughout is just being consistent in something, and just staying active, making sure that when I getting older now, and that stuff just hurts when you wake up, and it's not
you're headed towards the age of the doctor.
Yes.
yeah, right. But it's just making sure that I can have this sustainably because I have all my injury stuff that I have to deal with too. And so just making sure that I can be as fit and healthy for as long as possible.
Yeah. It does not get easier as you get older.
No. Advice for officers working solo in a rural area.
Time's on your side. I think that really actually goes for a lot of situations, not just rural area solo stuff. Obviously, to a degree, there's are definitely instances where we have to act, and we have to act now. But making sure that you don't purposely rush into things that don't need to be rushed into. If that situation dictates that you need, like, hey, I need some backup, wait for it. There's no need to rush into things and try and handle things by yourself if it's not an immediate threat that needs to be addressed.
What advice would you give to an officer recovering from a critical incident?
I think we can go back to a lot of you're not alone in that. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you aren't alone in that, and that these traumas, however long it takes, you are able to overcome them, and however that looks for you, however that looks best for you, for your family, for your life of overcoming. But it is possible, and that you're not alone, and don't be afraid to get help. Again, give me a call. I will happily talk to you anytime. I think that's honestly probably the biggest thing, is that you're not alone in this.
What does CHP family mean to you now?
Definitely goes now beyond just our uniform and the immediate family. That is what we have, a huge department. But after I got hurt, there was such an outpouring from the community. I have a book of letters that I got from grade school kids, like, just, hey, officer, praying for you for your recovery, and all these, and the amount of people that I have met through this and can still continue to meet, that I'm able to share with, the friendships that I have been able to build within our department, that had I not gotten hurt, I would have never have met these people. And today, and the people that are on the department today that I am very good friends with, that those relationships would not have occurred had I not gone through what I went through. And so for that, I'm thankful for having gone through that to get to where I am with people that I have met, and being able to share what I went through, being able to help people, being able to just go on and share that can recover from stuff, and but just having that community and having that those friendships have been huge, to be able to encourage me coming back, and encourage me when I retired, like, hey, everything. So it opened up a whole new window of opportunity and friendships that I never would have had before.
It's amazing.
It is. Your story of just you in general, your strength, your resilience, your perseverance, it is inspiring. It's a message that not only resonates with the department, but really that anybody that hears it. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show with us and sharing your story with us and all of our listeners. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
And thank you to all of you that continue to tune in and watch us. Remember to make sure that you follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeart, and we will see you at our next episode of Behind the Badge.
You have traffic?
Multiple units, 83 Mountain Park.